I spoke with Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hoseman this week, and he offered his thoughts on the state economist update to lawmakers.
Well, appreciate his advice, of course. We've received contrary advice from just about every other publication that I've looked at that says that inflation will be significantly higher than 2.5%. So right now, the numbers that we're looking at are probably in the 7 or 8%. The really only question I think really is out there is what's the duration? You know, how long will this go on? You've seen just a real significant decline in the stock market in the last week. That usually is a precursor of what's going to happen 6 months from now. They're trying to figure out what the economy is going to do. And those are people betting money that we're going to have a significant recession. And we see it, we see it in talking to people in the grocery stores and at the gas stations, just like everybody else does, and the cost and having to make an economic decision about whether to make travel or whether to do this or not, based upon the fact that their dollars that they're earning now are worth less when they go to the grocery store. And that's the basic concept.
When we talk about the possible recession, what do you think the impact is going to be on the state of Mississippi?
It really varies. The impact is on the citizens, not much so with the state. Our revenue as such will probably decrease somewhat, could decrease somewhat, but we specifically held back about $300 million of ARPA money, and we cut our budget 2 years ago, and now we have over $1 billion in cash in our treasury. So we have enough money to have the state run well over the next couple of years if this occurs. And so we have really, with forethought, looked at balancing our budget over a period of years and having these expenses go out for ARPA and American Rescue Plan, which is basically infrastructure projects, having those projects go out over a period of years. So I've always got my people working, and consequently they would have less of a result from an inflationary environment.
When we look at unemployment at 3.6%, so seasonally adjusted, but our labor participation rate remains at the lowest in the nationwide. It's 55.3%, and we still have about 11,000 fewer people working now than we did in February 2020 before COVID pandemic. What do we need to do as a state to boost not only the labor participation but also the number of good-paying jobs that our workers would be willing to take?
I wish I had an answer for all of that. It is very disturbing that we have as low a labor participation rate as we have here in Mississippi. So why do we have that? And you have to me, you start with the beginning. In the beginning, we need to have our people educated. Our 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds up to 18, 22, whatever education forum that they want, we've got to have an educated workforce. Without that, they become non-competitive. So they can't get the latest skill that it would take to be a welder or to be whatever you wanted to do in your economic life. So I believe it starts with education, and that our people have to be competitive. And we're not just competitive against Alabama, we're competitive against Korea and China and all over. So our people have got to be ready to go to work. The second part is this inflationary spiral, which is occurring, has pretty much done away with worrying about a $7 or $8 an hour job. Those aren't out there anymore. People are paying $15, $20, $25, $30 an hour now for jobs that were probably half that just 6 months or a year ago. So you talk to any employer in Mississippi, they'll say we'll pay X, which is always almost double what they were paying a year ago to people who come in. So that the actual economics of going to work have improved for people who want to work. So now we have to make sure our people are educated well, which comes some through the community colleges, some through work training programs, but it really starts when you're in pre-K, K, and all the way up to high school, junior college, and the university level. All of those need to be emphasized. All of that education has to work, or nothing works. So I'm hopeful it will continue. We started a new program, Accelerate, and that's been very successful, and we're going on further to get people educated enough to get high-paying jobs.
When we talk about the Jackson water crisis, and it's been not only nationwide but pretty much all over the world with the issues that we have in Jackson, what impact does that have on recruiting business in the economy of the state of Mississippi? Does it people say, hey, we want to invest in the state, or does it have a negative impact to say, hey, they can't get their act together? Why should we even do business with the state or the city of Jackson?
Unfortunately, I think your latter is more accurate. We were on the front page of the USA Today. I saved the newspaper. We were the lead story for 2 or 3 days on every national news network, with a negative view towards Jackson. And I would receive, and I talked to so many people that received emails. So Mississippi is out of water. Mississippi, not Jackson. Mississippi is out of water. And so I think the negative impact we may not be able to quantify for a number of years. So we took a step backwards by having this system collapse like it did, and the weeks and weeks and weeks, and while the governor took over the system to have it work back again, who I think has done a great job, by the way. So I don't know that we'll really be able to quantify how great the magnitude of loss, not only in an economic, but in a perception way. This just reinforces the old perceptions that we're backwards some kind of way. Look, we can't even provide water to our citizens. So I just thought it was horrible what has happened to that. The cure for it, of course, is to get the thing right and not have this happen again and show people that we're open for business. I'm hoping this legislative session will be able to do some additional advertising to show Mississippi is open for business. We're redoing our state parks. We're doing a lot of things that will have positive impacts. But we've got to turn the paradigm. It's hard. People had a preconceived notion, and we confirmed it. And now we've got to get back working again to make sure people realize that we test the rockets to the moon. We have the greatest agriculture. We build automobiles. We build the ships for the Navy, everything here. And that just kind of, no pun intended, went down the drain.
That's Delbert Hoseman's view, but what about the private sector? Mississippi Economic Council's Scott Waller will offer his thoughts, and Transportation Commissioner Willie Simmons is here. How will Mississippi's infrastructure impact our economic competitiveness? Mississippi Insight is back in a moment.